ॐ वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषये भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। साक्षात्कृतं दयानन्दं परमार्थस्वरूपिणं तत्त्वज्ञानप्रशास्तारं प्रणतोऽस्मि परं पदम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तमाविद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तः शान्तः शान्तिः। 46th class. You can repeat after me. वासुदेवेन्द्रयोगीन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुम्
वासुदेवेन्द्रयोगीन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुम्
मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधो विधीयते।
मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधो विधीयते।
साधनचतुष्टयसम्पन्नाधिकारिणाम्
साधनचतुष्टयसम्पन्नाधिकारिणां
मोक्षसाधनभूतम्
मोक्षसाधनभूतं
तत्त्वविवेकप्रकारं वक्ष्यामः।
तत्त्वविवेकप्रकारं वक्ष्यामः।
साधनचतुष्टयं किम्?
साधनचतुष्टयं किम्?
नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः
नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः
यामुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः
इहामुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः
शमादिषट्कसम्पत्तिः
समाधिषट्कसम्पत्तिः
मुमुक्षुत्वं चेति
मुमुक्षुत्वं चेति।
After discussing the important topic sadhana chatushtayam, now the entering into the subject matter of the text. It starts with the question. Tattva vivekaha kaha
तत्त्वविवेकः कः
atma satyaha
आत्मा सत्यः
तदन्यत् सर्वं मिथ्या इति.
सर्वं मिथ्या इति.
Okay, you can mute your mic. So we are discussing Tattva Viveka in the last, and even in the last before that also we were discussing on the topic Atma. 4 words are mentioned. 4 words are used, and we discussed the 4 words which are required, whose knowledge is required to understand the Tattva Viveka. The Shishya asks the question, Tattva Vivekaha Kaha. Because the author said, Tattva Viveka Prakaram Vakshyamaha iti. So therefore, what is Tattva Viveka? Iti, the disciple asks the question. And the Guru, he answers. He answers the question very briefly. The presence, the subject matter of the text in just a single one vakyam, simple sentence. This vakyam, the sentence which sums up the topic, is called Sangraha Vakya, a brief statement. Sangraha Vakya. Sangraha Vakya contains the essence, the essence of the subject matter. And this subject, the essence, this Sangraha Vakya will be further elaborated by the text. First, the subject matter will be presented very briefly. Very briefly. That is called Sangraha Vakya or Sankshepa, a very brief presentation. Then this Sankshepa, the brief presentation, will be further elaborated, Vistara. Like the news. The news headlines will be there. In the beginning, they give the headlines. Then they get into the news, elaborate the news. Similarly, at the end, when they conclude, again they just give the main headlines. That is how here also, in Shastram also, follows the same procedure, same step. Sangraha, Vistara, and again Sangraha. Immediately, in the beginning itself, you cannot give an elaboration. In the beginning, just a Sankshepa. What we want to say, that is said very briefly. So therefore, Sankshepa, Vakya. Then it is Vistara. It's going to be elaborated. That is what the whole text is. The elaboration of this Sangraha, the Sankshepa, Vakya is this text, Tattva Bodha. So in this Sankshepa Vakya, the 4 important words are used. We saw Atma is one word, and Satya, and Tadanyat, other than Atma, which is Anatma. Anyat, different from Atma. Different from Atma is Anatma. That which is not Atma is Anatma. Opposite of Atma. Like Dharma, Adharma. Kshara, Akshara. Amaya, Anamaya. Similarly, Atma, Anatma. That which is not Atma. And another word is Mithya. These are the 4 words used. And the Guru says, Atma is Satyam, Tadanyat, Everything other than Atma is Mithya. This is iti. This is what is Tattva Viveka. Iti Tattva Vivekaha. Tattva Viveka we have to supply. Atma Satyaha. Tadanyata Sarvam Mithya iti Tattva Vivekaha. This understanding is called Tattva Vivekaha. So, all these the words are important. The knowledge of Satyam and Mithya is important, without which there is no Vedanta. Satyam means that which is real. Mithya is that which is not real. Which is not real. Satyam is that which have independent existence. Mithya is that which doesn't have independent existence. It has dependent existence. Mithya. Atma is Satya. Atma exists independently. Doesn't depend on Anatma. Whereas Anatma is that which is other than Atma. Anyata Sarvam, everything else. Anyata Sarvam. Anatma, which has dependent existence. Dependent existence on Atma, which is Mithya. So, Satyam and Mithya. Atma is Satyam, Anatma is Mithya. So, Satyam and Mithya. Satyam is not an object. Similarly, Mithya, there is no object called Mithya. The word Satyam and Mithya, it reveals the understanding about the thing. They do not refer to any particular objects. Here, refer to the understanding of a thing. The Satyam and Mithya, they are ontological terms. Ontology means it's a branch of metaphysics which deals with the nature of being, the existence. It doesn't deal with the quality of the object. It deals with the nature of the existence of the object. Ontology. So ontological terms. Satya. Satya means the general understanding of what Satyam is, that which exists is called Satyam. That which exists is called Satyam. Like that, the table is, the pot is, the tree is, the flower is. So that which exists is called Satyam. So the word Satyam, we saw it is derived from the word Sat. Sat means existence. Sat is existence and Satyam is that which is existent. So that which is existing, which has existence is called Satyam. That which doesn't exist at all, non-existent thing, that is called Tucham. That is different. In fact, there is nothing really speaking Tucham, non-existent thing. A rabbit's on is Tucham. It doesn't exist. Rabbit on doesn't exist. A square circle doesn't exist. But square exists separately, circle exists separately. Rabbit exists separately, on exists separately. These two are mixed up in your dream. In the dream it is possible, it is mixed up. But in the waking state it is not available. But it is available independently, but not together. So, therefore we say it is Tucham, doesn't exist. But there is nothing really which doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, that will not be available as your knowledge. So, what is existent is only available for your knowledge. So, there is really speaking that is non-existent. Rabbit's horn is non-existent. It means the combination of rabbit and horn doesn't exist. For that we have a word, tucham. So we give it the ontological status to the rabbit's horn as tucham, non-existent. So tucham is that which doesn't exist at all. It just doesn't exist at all. We're not talking about total non-existence, which we cannot talk about at all. Total non-existence cannot be talked about. When you talk about that, it is exist. So tucham, when we say the combination of the things which are not possible, but they exist independently, but as combination doesn't exist. That is non-existent. Tucham is another word. So that word should not be confused with mithya. So tucham and mithya, they are not same. Tucham is another term which is non-existent. Here when we say mithya is that which doesn't have independent existence. That which doesn't have independent existence. Therefore, here tattva viveka, when we say tattva vivekasya adhikarinaha bhavanti kaha, the sadhana chatushtaya sampannaha, he becomes a qualified person for tattva viveka. So viveka means analysis, examining, thinking, analysis of the truth, which leads to the very distinctive understanding, gaining the distinctive knowledge of the truth. So the distinctive understanding of Satyam and Mithya, the distinctive understanding of what Atma is and what Anatma is, that is Tattva Viveka. And when we say Atma is Satyam, Atma is that which exists. And Anatma is that which doesn't have independent existence. They don't exist apart from Atma. Therefore, we use the word Mithya. Therefore, we use the word Mithya. So, Satyam and Mithya, two important words. To understand more on Satyam and Mithya, I'll give some more examples. But before that, when we say Atma, Atma is not an object. It is not available as an object for your objectification, for your perception. Anatma is that which is available for your objectification. It is available for your perception. Therefore, that which is available for perception of your sense organs, that is which is available as a knowledge by operating the sense organs or any other pramanam, that is anatma. Like you see an object by opening the eye, you see the form, you see the color, the object is objectified, the knowledge of the object is gained, that is anatma. That in the presence of which all this knowledge is possible and that is not objectifiable, that is atma. So the very knowledge is possible because of that is atma, without which there is no knowledge possible, and that cannot be objectified, that is not available for objectification of your sense organ, because it is not an object. It is not an object. It is a very subject. It is the jnata, the jnatru, the knower. The knower can know the things which are available in the external world through the operation of the sense organs. So, pramanam is there, pramata is there, and Prameyam is the object of knowledge. So the Pramata operating the Pramanam gains the knowledge Prama of the Prameyam. But Pramatru, the knower, the knowledge of the knower, that is not possible through operating any of the known Pramanams. So the Pramatra is unobjectifiable. He is the subject in the presence of whom everything comes to the light. Everything comes to your knowledge. Everything comes to your understanding. Therefore, only we saw the body is not you because it is available for objectification. The sense organs are not you because it is available for objectification. The mind is not you because the thoughts are available for your objectification. So we have to negate all these things. Naiti, naiti, neti, neti, negating. Negating all this and arriving at that which is unnegatable. That is Atma. You can negate everything, but you cannot negate you. You cannot negate you. You cannot be negated. Agam cannot be negated. This I cannot be negated. That which is unnegatable, the unnegatable I, in the presence of which everything is, the knowledge of everything is gained. Everything is perceived as an object other than you. So, therefore, two things are there. One is I, that is Atma. Other thing is Anatma. So, all these body, mind, senses are Anatma. But we are so attached, clinging to this body, mind, sense complex, thinking that to be I. The feature of the body is a feature of me. The quality of the sense organs is the quality of me. The quality of the mind is the quality of me. So identified with this, and we take the qualities of these tools to be the quality of me. It's a great mistake. It's a very big mistake. That the mistake committed, and the resultant of the mistake is only samsara. Therefore, only shoka. Therefore, only moha and all those problems. So therefore this sharira, indriya, sangata is not you, and which is available for coming and going, which is not satyam because it comes and goes. It is available for it's available for destruction. It can be destroyed. The body is called deha. Why? Because dahana yogyatvat deha, which deserve to be cremated, buried. Therefore, it is called deha. The body is called shariram. Shiryamana sabhavatvat shariram, which naturally undergoes decay, decompose. That's why it's called shariram. So therefore, it cannot be you. Similarly, sense organs. Shariram at the gross level. Sense organs at the sukshma level. And mind also is at the sukshma level, subtle level. On any levels, they are not you. That is why Bhagavan Krishna says, you continue to remain and you cannot be destroyed. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, chainam kledayantyaapaha, nashoshayati marutaha. Weapons do not cut what? Atma or Anatma. Weapons do not cut the Atma, Satya Atma. Shastrani na chindanti. Fire cannot burn the Atma. Water cannot drench the Atma. Vayu cannot dry the Atma. But all this can, Shastram can cut Anatma, the body. Fire can burn the body. That is why it is called Degha, Dagana Yogyatvat Degaha iti. Water can drench the body. Vayu can dry the body. Vayu is an object and body is another object. So it can dry one object having impact on the other object. But you are not the object. You are the witness of everything. Sakshi, that cannot, the object cannot cause any change in you. Acchedyoyam madakyoyam akledyo shosyevacha. Acchedyoyam, Atma cannot be cut. It cannot be burned. It cannot be drenched. It cannot be dried. So therefore, if Atma cannot be burnt or drenched or cut or dried, it is not subject to any change or destruction, then what is that Atma? Can it be an object? No. It cannot be, Atma cannot be an object. We can call a thing as an object when it is available for any change or impact by another object. When you say Agni, Apa, Vayu, Prithvi, all these are objects. These objects can bring a change on the other objects. But when we say Shastrani na chindanti, Apaha na klediganti iti, therefore, when these cannot bring any change on Atma, therefore Atma is not an object. And also all the 5 elements are available for your sense perception, therefore they are objects. Even the Vayu is an object, even though it is not available for your eyes, but it is available for the skin perception. You can see the Vayu being polluted. Therefore, it must be. Akasha cannot be polluted. Akasha can never be polluted. Akasha is space. Space being what it is can never be polluted. But what the space contains, the air can be polluted. So therefore, air must be an object. So, Atma cannot be burnt, Atma cannot be drenched, cannot be cut, cannot be dried. Therefore, Atma cannot be an object. If Atma happens to be one of the object, then what happens? Then we don't need Shastram at all. Then we don't need Shastram. Since Atma is one of the object, therefore it will come under the purview of other pramanams. Pramanam about which we talked about. It comes under the scope of Pratyaksha Pramanam or Anumana Pramanam, any other Pramanam. Because it is not an object, therefore only Shastram, Shastra Pramanam is important. Shastram as a Pramanam doesn't objectify or doesn't establish Atma. It removes the wrong notion what a person has about oneself, Atma. That is why Shastram is a Pramanam. So, generally we understand an object how? We understand an object by its properties. That is how we understand an object. Any object you take in the world. When you say water, we understand water through the properties. Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. It boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Water has viscosity. Water flows. It has a wetting property. We know an object through its property. A flower is known by its property. In fact, we recognize what we see really, what we perceive is the property of the object. The object as such alone, we cannot know. Only through the property we know an object. So object is known through the properties. And what property Atma has? Since Atma is not an object, doesn't have any properties. Therefore, it is not definable. That which has properties is only definable. Therefore, objects are definable. Atma is not an object because it doesn't have any properties. Only that which have properties is available for your perception also. You have 5 sense organs, and the objects of the external world are made up of 5 elements. So these 5 sense organs and the 5 elements, they will have interaction and the object is perceived. But Atma is not an object like that, it is made up of some properties. Therefore, it is not available for defining the normal way we define any object. But this indefinable Atma is defined by the Shastram. Shastram tries to define. Like in Mundaka Upanishad we saw, Yattadadresham agragyam agotram avarnam achakshushrotram tadapani padam. Nityam vibhum sarvagatam susukshmam tadavyayam yadbodhayonim paripashyanti dhiraha. It's a very recently this Upanishad says adreshyam. Adreshyam means that which cannot be seen. The Satya Atma is not available for your recognition as an object for any sense organ. Agragyam, which is not available for your grasping. It is not tangible. Agotram doesn't have any origin. It is unborn, doesn't have any lineage. Avarnam, no color, no attributes, no qualities. Therefore, it is not available for objectification by words. Even the words of Shastram cannot objectify Atma. It is unobjectifiable because it is a very subject. And Atma Achakshushrodram, Atadapani Padam, it doesn't have any angas, no parts, no eyes, no ears, no legs, no hands. This is the definition of Atma. What definition is this? Really, this is a definition by negation. This is definition by negation. The Upanishad negates the common understanding what we have, the thinking that Atma is an object. The understanding what common understanding we have. How do we know an object? By its properties. Negating all those things, the Upanishad tries to show that Atma is not an object. So, Atma is not an object. An object, as I told before, it is defined only by its attributes, by its qualities. The definition of an object is, really speaking, is the defining its attributes and qualities. In chemistry, we would have studied an element is identified by its physical properties, chemical properties. A metal, a non-metal, a metalloid, the gas properties, we would have seen what is the chemical property, what is its physical property. So through property, we define the object. So our definition is nothing but the property, is nothing but through the properties we define the objects. So an object is nothing but its properties. You cannot separate the properties from the object. If you separate the properties, the object really doesn't exist. The properties are available for your perception, therefore you recognize the object. And we have 5 sense organs, and the sense organs are meant for objectifying or experiencing the attributes of the objects of the world. If an object is hot or cold, you can experience it by touch. If it has certain smell, then it can be experienced by nose. So therefore you can define it. In chemistry, it is hydrogen sulfide. How do you identify hydrogen sulfide? It has the odor of the rotten egg. Through smell property, you understand the gas hydrogen sulfide. The gas is hydrogen sulfide. Therefore, with the available pramanam, that is this pancha pramanam, pratyaksha, anumadi, etc. What we can perceive is only the attributes of the object. The object as such can never be experienced. No object can be experienced because they don't exist separate from the properties. So everything has property. Fire has property, water has property. So therefore, an object is defined based on the attributes. And Atma is not an object. Therefore, it has no attributes. Therefore, there is no perceptual definition of Atma. That is why Upanishad uses Adreshyam, Agragyam. These are not perceptual definition. Negation. These are negation. Negation to show that Atma is not an object. Therefore, it is not an object. When it is not an object, so all the normal understanding or the effort to understand a thing, like effort to understand an object, that effort is of no use to understand Atma. So our regular approach is not useful to understand the Atma because Atma is not an object. Atma is Satya, and other than Atma, which is Anatma, that is object. It is Mithya. So Anatma is available for the Pratyakshadi Pramanam, and Atma is not available for the Pratyakshadi Pramanam. So Anatmas are objects, Atma is not object. And we say this Atma is Satyam, it is real, which exists, an existent thing. And Mithya, which is unreal. Unreal means doesn't have separate existence. Unreal doesn't mean non-existent thing. You have to note important thing. Unreal doesn't mean non-existent thing. Unreal means that which doesn't have independent existence. We need to understand this very clearly. The man's own doesn't exist. Therefore, it is tucham. That is a different thing. So therefore, this Satyam meant Mithya. Now let us analyze what this Mithya. Let us analyze what this Mithya with some more example. You take a sari. The sari is, you can say the sari is nothing but made of thread. Sari is made of thread. So, suppose if you remove all the threads from the sari, then what happened to the sari? The sari will not be there. You will have threads. Only thread will be there. So when the sari is there, the threads are there. When the sari is not there, the threads continue to be there. You have removed the content of the sari, which is thread. So thread is available. So when the sari is there, threads are there. When the sari is not there now, threads still continue to be there. Now you tell me the sari is Satyam or not? The shirt is Satyam or not? The dhoti is Satyam or not? They are nothing but thread. Thread was there before taking a particular form, in the form of a dhoti or a shirt or a sari. Now the thread has taken a form. It is put together. Now sari or dhoti or shirt has come into existence. Now we have removed the threads. The threads continue to be, but there is no sari, there is no dhoti, there is no shirt. Therefore, now what is a thread and what is this sari? We have to give a name to it. We give the name Satyam to thread. Thread is Satyam. What about the sari? The sari is not Satyam. The dhoti is not Satyam. The shirt is not Satyam. Can we say the shirt or dhoti or sari is tucham, completely non-existent? You cannot say. If you say it's completely non-existent, then you are wearing a non-existent sari. How is it possible? I am wearing the non-existent dhoti. That which is non-existent, how can I wear it? Because it is non-existent. You cannot use it. That which is completely non-existent, it's not available for your utility. So you can't say I am wearing a non-existent sari. Not possible. Therefore, we need a word. We need a word that has existence but not independent existence. So sari, therefore, we cannot say sari is Satyam because minus thread there is no sari. So sari is not Satyam. At the same time, it is not a non-existent thing. So therefore, we need a word We need a word to give the status to the sari, which has existence but not independent existence. And the word what we use is mithya. Some people had some doubt about this word mithya. That is why further elaborating on the word mithya. So the sari is mithya, the dhoti is mithya, the shirt is mithya. All these are mithya. They are not non-existent. They have existence. Doesn't have independent existence. The truth of this is nothing but the thread. The truth of thread is nothing but the yarn. If you go on and on, finally it has to end up with that, the vastu, which doesn't exist, which exists independently, which doesn't have dependent existence. That is Atma. So the word here, the mithya, what we use to refer to that which has dependent existence, that reveals certain understanding about the reality of an object. An object, whether it is a real in the sense it has independent existence. Therefore, when we say mithya, mithya means that it's not an object at all. Mithya is not an object. The sari is neither satyam nor asatyam nor tucham. Therefore, the sari exists in between. The sari exists in between. The dhoti exists in between. The shirt exists in between satyam and in between. It's neither satyam nor asatyam. You cannot say shirt is satyam. You cannot say shirt is asatyam also. Therefore, it is relatively existent. And therefore, it is not really an object. And the word what we use to refer to it is mithya. So, mithya is a word we use to understand an object whose reality is independent of, whose reality is not independent of something else, whose existence is not independent of something else. It means it has dependent existence. So you can understand the dependent. Now you can understand the dependent nature. I'll give another example to understand the word mithya. Suppose if I ask you to bring the book, ask you to bring the book, you will bring the book. If I ask you to bring the desk, you will bring the desk. If I ask you to bring the book and the desk, you will bring both. Now, if I ask you to bring the desk and the wood, then what will you do? Ask you to bring the desk and the wood. Wood is an object. Desk is also an object. So, when you say book and the desk, these are two objects, two independent objects. So, you understand distinctly book is a book, the desk is desk, and you have to bring it. Now, I'm asking you to bring the desk and the wood. Since I use the two words desk and the wood, therefore, you will think that there must be two different objects because I'm saying desk and the wood. But even though the two words are used, but there are no two objects. The wood, when you say wood, from that wood only the desk is made. So, the substance of desk is nothing but wood. The substance of desk is wood, but desk is not a substance. It is only a name given to a particular form of wood. A wood is given a shape, a wood is given a form, and it is given a name, and that is disc. Similarly, from the same wood, all the other objects, chair, a cot, or a stand, so many objects are made. But they are not, but really they are not substance. It doesn't have absolute the reality. Stand when we say, a chair when we say, it is not a substance like the wood. The content of chair is wood. The cot is nothing but wood. The desk is nothing but wood. Desk, stand, chair, cot, all these are nothing but a name given to a particular form of wood. All these depend on wood for its existence. A desk apart from wood doesn't exist. A chair apart from wood doesn't exist. So, therefore, when I ask you to bring the desk, will you bring the desk or will you bring the wood? The desk is nothing but made of wood only. So, when you lift the desk, you are lifting the wood. When I ask you to bring the desk, without wood, you cannot bring the desk. When you lift the desk, you are lifting the wood. So, therefore, the desk, stand, chair, all these which have got utility, all these are names, just the names, and they don't have independent existence apart from wood. They owe their existence on wood. They are mithya. They are mithya. Then what is a satyam? The wood is satyam. The wood with reference to wooden products. With reference to wooden products, wood is satyam. It is wood alone which pervades all the mithya objects. Desk, chair, cot, stand, whatever you name it. Any object. Wood is satyam out of which all these are made. It is wood which pervades. It is vyapaka, pervades all these mithya objects. Mithya means that which has dependent existence. It doesn't mean useless. You have to not understand. Mithya doesn't means useless. Mithya, when we say unreal, means it is not that it is imaginary. It is there. It has got utility. In the Vyavaharika, desk has got utility. A wood may not be serving the purpose of a desk, but desk as desk which is nothing but wood, it has got certain utility. So all the mithya vastus, mithya objects, they are useful, but they don't have independent existence. It owes their existence to something else. Therefore, we use the word mithya. So, in this example, the wood pervades, wood which is satyam pervades all the mithya objects. The wood is satyam and objects are mithya. Therefore, we can say the satyam pervades the mithya objects. The satyam pervades the mithya objects. And the mithya can change its form. The mithya objects can change its form from one to another. It can change. The form can be changed, but the satyam wood continues to be present. The satyam wood, mithya object can be changed, it can be destroyed, it can be brought, you can bring about a change in the mithya objects. But the wood, which is satyam, continues to be present changelessly in whatever change happens to the mithya objects. The sari is mithya. What is satyam? The thread is satyam. Even thread is not satyam. Why? Because the threads are made from yarn. Yarn is satyam. Even yarn is not satyam because they are made from fiber. If we consider fiber as the end, for the sake of the example, if we consider fiber as the end, then fiber is satyam. Fiber is Satyam. Out of fiber, all this dhoti, shirt, sari, and all made. Therefore, thread is mithya. Yarn is mithya. Sari is mithya. Dhoti is mithya. Shirt is mithya. It is a satya fiber which pervades a thread. It is a satyam fiber which pervades a yarn. It is a satyam fiber which pervades the sari. Therefore, the sari is, we can say, because of the thread. The thread is because of yarn, and the yarn is because of fiber, and fiber is, we cannot say, because for the sake of example, we have taken fiber to be the end. So you cannot say fiber is because of, no, fiber is satyam. You have to stop somewhere. We can say fiber is also made up of something. Atoms, molecules, atoms go on and on. But you have to stop somewhere for the sake of the example. Therefore, I stop at fiber. The fiber is satyam. But in reality, if you go on, what does you end with? You end with Atma. Atma is satyam. Therefore, the yarn, thread, and sari, they're all nothing but the different form given to the fiber. It is a fiber which pervades the thread, the yarn, and the sari, dhoti. Therefore, these have existence because of the fiber, which is satyam. So, fiber satyaha, sari mithya. Fiber satyaha, thread mithya. Fiber satyaha, yarn mithya. Wood satyaha, desk mithya. Similarly, chain and gold. One more example. Gold chain. We say gold chain. Gold chain. Are they two objects? You see, we use the word gold chain. Chain is made of gold. Therefore, they are not really two different objects. Chain is dependent on gold. Chain is dependent on gold. Minus gold, there is no chain. Minus gold, the chain doesn't exist. If I ask you, you keep the chain with you, give me the gold. Or if you keep the gold, give me the chain. Can you do it? Minus gold, the chain doesn't exist. So, chain is nothing but a form given to the gold. So, they are not separate. Chain and gold are not separate, but we say gold chain. How is that? They are not separate, but we say gold chain. Because there are other chains are available, therefore we use as though the gold as an adjective. Because iron chain is there, steel chains are available, therefore we need some adjective, therefore we use gold chain. Really, gold also, it is a substance out of which the chain is made. Therefore, gold really cannot be used as an adjective. It should be the other way. Chainy gold must be. Yeah. Because the substance is gold, which is given a form, chain. Therefore, chain must be the adjective to the substance gold. It should be chainy gold. It cannot be gold chain. But in the Vyavahara, we use such words, gold chain. Gold is the name and form given, the chain is the name and form given to the gold. So gold is a substance, chain is an attribute, a property. That which is property is the adjective, Visheshana, that should be before the substantive in a word. When you say a tall boy, the boy is substantive, and the tall is adjective. Tall boy, smart boy, intelligent boy. Boy is substantive, intelligent is adjective. So boy is a substance. You are describing the boy. Similarly, the gold is a substance, and you are describing the gold by its form, and then therefore it has got a name. Therefore, gold must be there, should be preceded by the adjective chain. So it should be chainy gold. Really speaking, chainy gold. bangly gold, bangly or necklacey gold, gold necklace. So these words must be the adjective. But in the Vyavahara, what we do, give the we give the the substantive status to the chain as though it is a real substance. Chain is as though a real substance, and gold is something, a property sticking to the chain. The fact is, it is not. Gold is the substance out of which the chain, bangles, etc. are made. Minus gold, they don't exist. Therefore, what is Satyam? Gold is Satyam. Even though we use the word gold and gold chain, but we understand gold is a substance and chain is nothing but a name or a form given to the gold. So in our understanding, it is clear. Even though we use the word gold chain, we know it is chainy gold. We know the substance. We know the substance is gold. That is why, since the substance is gold, that is why it cannot be separated. Minus gold, you keep the chain, give me the gold. Doesn't work. So therefore, with reference to all the golden ornaments, the gold is Satyam. And anything made of gold is Mithya. So gold is Satya and ornaments Mithya. This is the understanding of Mithya. What is Mithya? The same thing is now extended to the subject matter of the text, which is Atma. Atma is Satyam, and everything else, when we say other than Atma, which doesn't have independent existence, it has dependent existence on Atma, and therefore, is it Satyam or Mithya? It is Mithya. And this Atma is I. I am the Satyam. And what is other than me? Other than me, the whole world, the prapancha, including this body, mind, senses, they are Anatma. Anatma means other than me. Other than me is everything. That is why the word sarvam is used. Sarvam means everything. Everything is mithya. Everything is mithya. They are dependent on me for its existence. They don't exist without me. That is the jnanam. That is a wisdom. I don't have dependent existence, but everything depends on me. I am independent of everything. That is why I cannot be touched, I cannot be burnt, I cannot be dried. Aham Atma, Achedyoyam Adagyoyam iti. So now we understand what is Mithya. So understanding this Atma is Satya and everything is Mithya. And I don't depend on anything for my existence. I am free. Aham Purnaha. Aham Purnaha, I am complete. I don't depend on anything for my security. I don't depend anything on for my comfort, for my happiness, because Aham Purnaha, I am the reality. That knowledge is freedom, moksha. When you discover this independence, that Aham Purnaha, I am free. That is the end. That is a jnanam. That is a wisdom. Atma Satyam. And Satya here should not look outside. It is me. So therefore, understanding Atma distinctly from Anatma, because we have confused or we have mixed up Anatma with Atma. Both ways. The properties of Anatma are superimposed on Atma. And similarly, the properties, Atma doesn't have property. Atma is superimposed on Anatma. So there is a mutual superimposition, adhyasa, adhyaropa, mix-up. Because of mix-up, there is misunderstanding, confusion. Therefore, only the samsara is. For this samsara to go, what we require is this distinct understanding of what Atma is, which is myself. which is Satya. Everything else is Mithya. That is called Tattva Viveka, and that is a subject matter of the text. The next topic we will see. Now, author will elaborate on this. These 4 words, what we discussed so elaborately, the author himself will describe, will elaborate technically. That we will see. We will see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
धन्यवाद
गुरुजी
धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद जी.
धन्यवाद स्वामीजी.
धन्यवाद.